Chapter 6 Cuentale, Part 2. You are not my brother. James feels like his mind is stuck on a loop when he wakes up the next morning. You are not my brother, again and again, followed by, but what does he mean? And James tossing and turning in his bed. Regulus's voice, soft and a little raspy, repeat those 5 words. James keeps dissecting them, taking them apart and putting them back together as though the meaning is going to change even though the configuration stays the same. You are not my brother, James mutters to himself. You are not my brother. You are not my brother. He gives up before the clock reaches 5 a.m. If his head won't stop spinning around and round, then he'll just have to move until it clears. His muscle groan and protests the stretching routine he's putting them through. He's back to work on Monday and he's neglected his fitness a bit over the holiday. James wasn't exaggerating when he told regulars he now has stadiums full of people cheering for him. He doesn't want to disappoint them because he was too busy watching a boy with black curls and mesmerizing eyes read a book. Ay, pero tú sí eres bien huevón. Regulus es tu amigo ya. Dea te llamaré la vaina. Through the open door of the small studio he's made into his temporary gym, James can hear Effie helping Regulus pack for school. He's leaving tomorrow and James is feeling some way about it. It's been nice having Regulus right across the hall, being able to just look at him whenever he wanted because he was just there. Hearing his voice or catching a whiff of his signature smell in the living room. Pranks! James startles so hard he almost pulls his hamstring, which he's stretching with the leg straight out in front of him. Shaking his head, he reaches for his bag and takes out the mirror. The reflection isn't hazel eyes and brown skin, but ice blue and... Are you sunburned? James asks. Yeah, Sirius says, smiling. It was sunny yesterday and we went ice skating. Only you can get sunburned in the dead of winter, mate. Sirius laughs. The mirror swings around, making James mildly motion sick for a moment before it settles back. We're going to head home now. Just wanted to give you a warning before we showed up, in case you... Oh, I'm still at the manor, James tells him. Ma needs some help with the gardening shed and I haven't finished with it, so I'm staying the night. I'll be back at the flat tomorrow. Are you sure? Sirius tilts his head, brow slightly raised. His black hair brushes the top of his shoulder. James gives him a look through the mirror and Sirius laughs. All right. Yes, Remus's family has been intense. Haven't had a proper fucking week. That's so. We don't deserve you, Sirius sighed, grinning. I know. They disconnect the mirrors. James puts it away and goes back to his stretches. He's almost done, and now that he's told Sirius he's staying an extra night, perhaps Regulus needs help with packing, or maybe he wants one more flying lesson in the garden. Maybe they can go check in on Bob. Miraculously, he's still standing at the property's edge. Or maybe you should stop being weird and creeping and forcing your company onto Regulus all the time. James wrinkles his nose. Nah, if Regulus didn't want him around, he would say something. It's true he never initiates, but James always asks him, and he always says yes. Besides, he's about to be in Scotland for almost 6 months, so there's nothing odd about James wanting to spend every last second he can near him. Nothing odd at all. Effie prepares a feast. It's a send-off, the last family dinner before Regulus is back in school. It means that James and Regulus spend a good portion of the day in the kitchen helping her. By the time James came out of his gym, Regulus was already done packing, nursing a cup of tea. Now they are washing hands side by side in the sink. The kitchen smells of slowly baking pastry, of cooking meat. There's beef Wellington in the oven, and of honey and vanilla. It's all James can do not to open the fridge and stick his finger in the cake Effie baked. "Boys," she called from the door, hair up in a messy bun and flour streak on her jeans. She's smiling, though, and it makes James's heart warm to see his mother so happy. "Dinner is at 6:30 sharp. Until then, you are free. Regulus, please keep James away from the kitchen. I don't trust him knowing there's a cake in the fridge." James makes a noise of protest, but only so Regulus doesn't get suspicious about how elated he is to have been given an excuse to stick to his side. Next to him, Regulus dries his hands in a towel and purses his lips. James can almost see the gears turning in his head. Insecurity strikes him. What if Regulus is trying to get rid of him politely? Before he can succumb to the worry, James blurts, "Do you want to go watch a film?" "Haven't we watched all the ones Arthur gave your dad?" "No, yes, I mean," James clears his throat. We can go to the cinema." Regulus steals, kitchen towel dangling from long, elegant fingers. There is a silver ring on his left thumb and another with a small black stone on his right index. Normally, he wears a few more, but James knows he didn't want to get them messy from the cooking. These two, however, Regulus never takes off. Is it weird he knows this? Probably. James doubts everyone else has paid enough attention to him to have picked up on such a small detail. "What movie?" Hope unfurls in James's chest. Regulus didn't shut him down, and that's, well, no, it means nothing, actually. James has gone to the cinema with Sirius several times. Sure, it's a popular activity for romantic dates, but friends and family go together all the time, too. It means nothing. "Dawn of the Dead," James informs Regulus. It's about the end of the world, like there are zombies, which are sort of like in Fairy, that chase people and try to turn them into zombies too. And the normal people have to escape if they can. Muggles love it. It's supposed to be scary. "All right," Regulus says, and James's heart shimmies. They leave the house without much fanfare and walk to the nearest Muggle village. It's only 20 minutes away, though. In the snow and ice, it takes them half an hour. Conversation is surprisingly easy, despite all the doubts that have been swirling in James's mind. They talk about other movies they've watched, somehow entering a lively discussion of who the most handsome actor is. "Obviously, he's Christopher Reeve," James is explaining. "There should be no discussion about this. None at all." How do you know so much about Muggle celebrities?" Regulus asked him. "I live with Remus Lupin. What's your excuse?" "I'm gay," Regulus deadpans. James laughs and his foot almost slips on a patch of ice. He manages to get his balance at the last second, avoiding a fall. When he recovers, he notices Regulus' hands retracting, as though he'd been about to hold him. And if James decides that next time he slips he's going to fall, well, that's no one's business, is it? "All right, if you don't think Reeve is the winner, then who?" James asks him. They round the corner and see the cinema in front of them. There's a small queue of people, but nothing alarming. "Robert Redford," Regulus mutters as they come to stop behind a couple of teenagers. "He's too old," James exclaims. "Really?" "Maybe I like older men," Regulus says, a little defensive. "It's not like things are working out with boys my age." James could kiss the ticket girl for calling them forward at that time. Honestly, if he has to hear about Jordan one more time, he will commit arson. For all of Regulus's claim that it's over, that it wasn't important, he seems a little too hung up on the fact that it didn't work out. James hates it. What if Regulus goes back to school and finds someone? They get their tickets, buy popcorn, and sit down to watch the film, but James is miles away. He's in Scotland, trying to remember every boy a year below him, maybe two. Is there anyone who is good enough for Regulus? The thought alone makes him nauseous. By the time the movie credits roll, James has decided he needs to stop this. It's unhealthy. It's so unfair to Regulus. He deserves to find someone who makes him happy. Gag. And James needs to be in a position to be happy for him. Easier said than done, but Euphemia Potter did not raise a quitter. As soon as Regulus is back to school, James will agree to one of the dates his teammates keep trying to set up for him. Just a quick glance sideways makes his gut clench. Once Regulus leaves, James tells himself, it will be easier to pretend. Wow, Regulus mutters, turning his face up to the sky when they walk outside. It's only 5:30, but it's completely dark. That was something. Did you like it? Snow crunches underfoot as they begin their walk to the Potter Manor. They'll be home with half an hour to spare before dinner. In lieu of an answer, Regulus asked, what would you do if that was happening? If zombies were taking over and you... What would you do if the world was ending and you knew it? James swallows and looks up. His hands are in his pocket of his jacket. The wind nips at his cheek. He can't feel the tip of his nose. I would want to spend this time I have left with the people I love. I would come to the manor, I guess, with Sirius and Remus. James hesitates but decides to say it anyway. Regulus can interpret it however he wants. With you. Regulus purses his lips, nods. Yeah, he says softly. Yeah, me too. To the surprise of absolutely no one, they eat too much food that night. I'm about to explode, James groans. He sits opposite Regulus on the Potter's giant sofa, long legs stretched out in front of him, ankles crossed on the coffee table. Regulus, who also feels mildly nauseous from how full he is lying down on his side, legs bent to keep himself from touching James. He's all too aware of how narrow the space between his feet and James's thighs is. Agreed. I feel quite sleepy, actually, Monty says absently, fiddling with the television set. My turn in early. Would you mind, Regulus? No, he says at the same time Giles declares. I would have terrible nightmares if I went to bed this full. You're insane, Dad. Monty snorts and shakes his head. Regulus smiles to himself. For the next few minutes, they discuss whether they should find something to watch. This seemed to remind Monty that James and Regulus went to the cinema before dinner, which prompts an interrogation about the film they watched. The TV set remains off, forgotten in favor of lively discussion. Effie, curled up in an armchair with a mug of tea between her palms, asked, do you ever wonder where Muggle come up with it all? I mean, their imaginations are rather impressive considering they can match such interesting contraption without the use of magic. Regulus settles in against the pillow under his head, gaze bouncing between James, Monty, and Effie. Without Sirius here to complete their group, it feels strange, as though he's intruding on their family and making a space for himself where he doesn't belong. Which is insane. He does belong. Even when Sirius and James still lived here, the five of them would gather around on Friday nights to watch film gifted from Arthur. Sometimes Remus would come, sometimes the girls. There were no tradition at Grimwald, but he's realized over the last 2 or so years that the Potters love traditions. Though these are specific food for specific holidays, specific desserts for birthdays. Game nights are common and almost always on the 3rd Saturday of each month, with all of their friends in attendance. "We should go to the cinema, Monty," Effie declares after listening to James's explanation of the film for the third time. "I would like to watch that." "Whatever you want, love." The conversation moves on, but Regulus struggles to pay attention. It's difficult to focus on anything that's not the way James keeps bumping his thigh against Regulus's foot. The third time he does it, Regulus holds his breath and ends up having to release it before he passes out. James doesn't move his leg away. 5 minutes. 10. 20. The discussion is now about some play Effie and Monty watched in Paris once during a romantic getaway. Regulus couldn't tell you anything about it other than Effie had a grand time, and that simply because she's so passionate about her explanation, Regulus gets the gist, even though he's burning holes on the side of James's head with his eyes. There's a part of Regulus that wants to strangle James Potter at this exact moment. First, the kitchen, then the dinner table, and now here. Oh, it's cruel, really, that James would put Regulus through this. He doesn't mean to, of course. He's just adjusting his position on the couch, getting comfortable, and neither of those activities have a damn thing to do with Regulus. But he's warm all over now, burning up under his blanket because James won't move his damn leg. It's maddening. Regulus tries to focus on the conversation to forget about James's leg pressed against his foot. He knows he could move, but he was here first, damn it. It's not his fault James decided to invade his space. Again. He's been in the exact same position since they first sat down. Another shift, more of that getting comfortable that's driving him mad, and Regulus wants to die. He's peaceful when he sleeps, isn't he? Effie muses, looking down on Regulus's relaxed face. He fell asleep some time ago when Effie and Monty relaxed, and James got distracted fiddling with the snow globe on the coffee table. Should we take him upstairs to bed, Monty? No. Let him rest. Monty lays a hand on her shoulder. James, are you going to stay here with him or go upstairs? James gestures on his lap where Regulus, in an attempt to get comfortable, he supposes, stretched out in his sleep and put his feet right on top of Jason's thigh. They are covered by his blanket, his whole body wrapped tight like a cocoon, but James is still painfully aware that Regulus's heel is dangerously close to his groin. Effie smiles down at him. It's a small thing, a secret thing that she gives him when Monty disappears upstairs. Are you going to tell him? She whispers, hands on her hips. Or are you going to keep pretending like you... Ma, James hisses, glancing frantically at Regulus. He's still fall asleep. Por favor, ¿Y desde cuándo te da pena demostrar tus sentimientos? A Lily se lo digeste bien rápido. No es lo mismo. Effie arches a manicured brow. Oh? He is different. His serious brother. He's especial. James's nostril flare. He sighed incredibly loud in the quiet living room. Sí. No la quiero cagar, ma. Regulus te adora. Not like that. Effie shrugs. No quiero que me digas metiche, pero creo que debes declarar lo que sientes. Si no se lo dices, nunca vas a saber si tienes chance. O cuando me diga que me ve como un hermano que, no, ni loco. Effie gives him an inscrutable look. Yo no estaría tan segura. Sighing, James pulls the blanket to his chin and settles back against the couch, careful not to disturb Regulus's feet in his lap. Good night, Ma, he says. I'll see you in the morning. Are you going to stay down here all night? He gestured to his lap again. Da. Effie laughs softly but leaves him on the couch. her footsteps fading as she heads upstairs. I wouldn't be so sure. The words make James want to scream. His mother is delusional, he decides. She must be wrong. There is no way Regulus sees James as anything other than a pseudo-brother. Why would he? No, things are the way they are. No amount of wishful thinking will change the fact that Sirius showed up on their doorstep, little brother in tow, and moved in. Effie and Monty welcomed them with open arms, happy to give spare bedrooms to the brothers. They became part of the family, didn't they? There is a Sirius who always felt like the sibling James never had, and, well, then there's Regulus who has always been something else. A thing James can't name because it's not that simple. In fact, it's complicated. For starters, even if his mother was right and there was a chance Regulus thought of him that way, James isn't sure how Sirius would react to it. For a moment, James imagines telling him, saying the words, giving them shape, speaking them into existence. I've had feelings for your brother for 6 years. I try to ignore them, but they are getting bigger. If he could get rid of the feelings, he would. Truly. He hadn't expected it to hurt when he heard Regulus say someone kissed him. He'd expected a minor sting at best, but it had been a physical blow, a reminder that Regulus doesn't look at him the way James looked at him. Even now, curled up on the sofa, not quite together but still touching, which is enough to drive James mad, he can't stop glancing over at Regulus. He just wants to look, to catalogue the moment when Regulus' jagged edges soften and he's this instead. He's stunning always, but it's in these rarer moments that James truly aches. Because he knows it will never be simple, and he will never tell Regulus how he feels. The balance is too delicate, the potential fallout too messy. Someday he'll move on, accept that Regulus will never be his. For now, though, he's grateful he can at least have this. And translation of those dialogues in Spanish. Ma, James hisses, glancing frantically at Regulus. He's still fast asleep. Por favor, eh? Since when you are embarrassed about your feelings? You told Lily quite pretty quickly. It's not the same. Effie arches a manicured brow. Oh? He is different. He's Sirius's brother. He's special. James's nostrils flare, his sigh incredibly loud in the quiet living room. Yes, I don't want to mess it up, Mom. Regulus loves you. Not like that. Effie shrugs. I don't want you to tell me off for being in your business, but I do think you need to tell him how you feel. If you don't tell him, you will never know if you've got a chance. And when he tells me he sees me like a brother, then what? No. Effie gives him an inscrutable look. I wouldn't be so sure.